אינטרנט זה כמעט...
לא, אי אפשר, כן. אי אפשר בלי אינטרנט. מה שלומך, ונדי?
הכל בסדר. עשית את החיסון השני.
מה?
עשית את החיסון השני.
יופי.
לפני שבוע וחצי.
חסונה ומחוסנת, יפה.
שלום לכולם.
שלום, קלר.
Hello, Claire.
Long time.
Yes. I'm back.
I'm back.
Welcome back.
Welcome, video.
So today we got our first vaccine.
Oh.
Finally.
מה דוד?
היום קיבלנו את החיסון הראשון.
יופי.
רק הראשון?
הם צעירים.
הם צעירים.
פאולה, מה שלומך?
הנה, פאולה.
שלום.
שלום רבקה.
שלום, מה שלומכם?
שלום רובי.
היום במשרד עד 8.
נכון, כן.
Quiet until 8 o'clock.
No problem. You told me,
Un prazer te conocer, Paula.
Meu prazer.
Finally.
Sim.
יש פה ספרדית, איטלקית, אנגלית, צרפתית.
וגם ישראלי אחד.
יש לי עברית קצת גם.
מיעוט אורה.
מה?
מיעוט.
אני במיעוט, בהחלט. אני ורבקה פה, רבקה ויוסי עוד מעט יעלה.
אני לא אכפת לי שגם יפרשו את המקרא בצרפתית.
אני עולה חדשה מנהריה.
שרון ברג. למדתי, את שומעת אורה?
כן.
ועד שנתחיל, אפרופו צרפתית, את שנת השבתון שלי, אני לימדתי בעבר, ולשנת שבתון נסעתי לפריז ללמוד לימודי יהדות בפריז, תביני. בפריז לימודי יהדות, זה כזה...
יפה מאוד.
וזאת הייתה שנה שאפשרה לי ללמוד את כל הטרמינולוגיה של היהדות, של התנ"ך, של המקרא, ובכלל, בצרפתית. זה לטינית, זה באנגלית אותו דבר.
כן, יפה.
אותו דבר.
כל הכבוד.
שנה מאתגרת
זה מה שצריך לעשות בשנות שבתון. שלום יוסי.
להתרחק, אני התרחקתי מהמכללה, מהכל. היה כיף, היה באמת טוב. כן,
מגיע. חכה, אני יודעת שקריסטל צריכה לעלות. שלום גרשון.
אז מה שלומך עם העבודות שלך? כתבת שאת עסוקה עם עבודות?
לא, הייתי, היה לי מבחן אחד, כן, לא, עכשיו אני בסדר.
את גם עובדת, נכון?
היה זה. עכשיו כבר לא, זה היה עבודה זמנית, אבל יש לי מה לעשות.
אין ספק. אני אותו דבר שואלים אותי, אין יום, אין רגע בלי עשייה, אין ספק. הזום פותר הרבה מאוד, מעניק הרבה מאוד הזום. אני מאוד מחוברת לזום, הרבה דברים.
אז עכשיו אני צריכה גם להתחיל, כבר התחלתי לכתוב את התזה, יש לי... שלום, עדינה.
היי.
הנה ג'יני.
כן, שלום, כן.
שלום, וגרי, ושלומו.
כל המשפחה הגיעה.
כן, כל המשפחה הגיעה, בדיוק.
יפה אמרת.
בהחלט, ממש יפה, כן. אני צריכה לראות באמת, to see when, I think we started about 2 years ago. I mean, in Zoom, of course, not 2 years ago, but this course is about 2 years ago. חכה עוד דקה, 2, ממש נחכה עוד טיפה. דוד, אז אני בעצם הוסט, כי אני אצטרך להראות, הנה קריסטל.
אם את רוצה לשים את כולנו על מיוט, את יכולה.
כן, זה התפקיד של גרשום, תמיד להזכיר. אני תמיד שוכחת, וגם הפעם שכחתי.
את יכולה להפוך אותו לקו-הוסט.
הנה לין, יופי. שלום לין.
שלום, ערב טוב.
ערב טוב, קריסטל, הלו. ערב טוב. קטרינה.
שלום רוברטו, מה שלומך?
שלום לין, שלומי טוב, אבל אני במיוט עכשיו.
בסדר.
עכשיו, כן.
אורה?
זהו, כולכם מתחצן, כן.
אני שומעת פה שכולם מדברים עברית. עלה על דעתך לקרוא קצת מקורות, את המקור לא רק באנגלית אלא גם בעברית? זה טוב לשמיעה גם.
כן.
זה פעם בשיעורים.
I think sometimes, אני אנסה כן לעבור לאנגלית. Sometimes I do read in Hebrew, or I say a specific word in Hebrew because if I think it's important or interesting or
Not everybody who converses in Hebrew can understand Tanakh in Hebrew.
Exactly. It's in the course of in the Hebrew course, of course, we did.
Claire.
לא, אתה לא מפריע. טוב, אני חושבת שנתחיל. Okay, so let's start. We are, wow, 16. Very nice. So welcome everyone, and today we start the book of Esther. Now, how do you usually say the book of Esther, the Esther scroll? Because in Hebrew it's Megillat Esther. Usually it's the book of Esther.
We say the book of Esther, yes.
Yeah, the book of Esther, okay.
I've never called it anything except Megillat Esther or the Megillah.
מה זה? Oh, sorry.
The only way I've ever referred to it or heard it referred to in my family is either the Megillah.
Megillah, okay.
Or Megillat Esther.
Megillat Esther. Just a second, I will... My dog wanted to come in and then wants to come out. So I think Megillat Esther is one of the most the well-known books of the Bible. Perhaps I think it's more I think maybe it's the well-known children know it very well, much more than other books, I think. And because of we read it every year, twice, in the evening, in the morning, and it's a very colorful story. It's a very fascinating story, and it's a happy holiday. You know, it's with nice customs. I know that. I mean, it's people sometimes compare Purim with Yom Kippur. I mean, it's two holidays, two Jewish holidays, totally the opposite, and exactly 6 months apart from each other. And look and think of the meaning of this comparison. Like one holiday is full of joy and silly things and a lot of food and drink and all that. And the other is totally the opposite. We read, we fast, we are very serious. And also, I think in Purim, this custom of putting masks and costumes is like we're hiding ourselves, we're hiding the truth, who we are. And Yom Kippur is totally the opposite. We come like our soul is naked before God, and it's very interesting these two holidays. Excuse me. רק שנייה, אורי, אני כבר התחלתי. This holiday Purim is not from the Bible law, it's from the halacha. The sages determined it. And what else we can say? We have also nice other customs, also the mishloach manot. And I don't know how to say it in English, but everyone knows what mishloach manot is, and to give gifts to the poor. And to drink a lot. In Steve. Hello, Steve. Okay. So the book, the story of Esther, it is not sure that it might be a legend, okay, but it is not important so much. It's some kind of a legend. Nobody knows if it really happens or not. And I would like to, I think maybe this is one of it's a very special story also because it takes place in other country, in far place, not in Israel, not around Israel. And I wanted to a little bit do some kind of an introduction to understand what is and where it took place. Okay, so I will share screen. Okay, so just let me know if anyone. Okay, so you see it, right?
But it's not the full screen.
Oh, now. Yeah? Everyone sees it? See it? Okay.
Yes.
So again, when I share, I cannot see everyone. I will try to do arrange it somehow, but okay, so I cannot see everyone. Okay, so the very first verse, can someone read the first verse, chapter 1, A? Robbie, can you read it? Okay. Just unmute yourself.
Okay. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India even into Ethiopia, over 127 provinces.
Thank you. So this Ahasuerus, I don't know how really to pronounce it. Took me 5 days to Ahasuerus or Ahashverosh. It is not his name. It is only a nickname, like we say Pharaoh for Egypt, for the king's Egypt king. Okay, it's not the real name. And of course, the scholars tried to figure out which was this king, this particular king of the Megillah. And they came to a conclusion that it is probably, Ahashverosh is the Persian word for Xerxes, or something like, Xerxes is the Persian word. And so it was maybe first Xerxes between 485 to 465 BCE, or the second Artaxerxes. It's kind of another name or nickname for the king, the Persian king, or the second or the third. But if you see all the years, the time, it's all in the 5th century or the 4th century, okay? BCE, of course, okay? So now I put this in red because they think this was the Ahashverosh of the Megillah. So we are talking about in the middle of the 5th century BCE. Now, Persia, the empire of Persian was huge, was really huge, and even in the scale of today, but of course in the scale of back then, it's about. This is something I found somewhere, a map with the ancient names. Okay, and this is I took from Google Maps, and I drew this line. It's approximately all the empire they conquered until the beginning of Greek and Europe here, and all Turkey and until Hodu. And this is why and of course up to the south of Egypt. And this is really Mehodu ve'ad Kush, as it says in the Megillah. Now it says about right in the first verse, where was 187 states or provinces. It was not states exactly. It was like districts or regions, much smaller than states, but quite a lot. Like there was the region of Judah here, and think that every region like this had, or many of them had their language. So even the logistic, they were very מתקדמים יחסית לזמן שלהם. They were very ahead of their time. Advanced. Question of logistic and technology, and to be able to we will see when Ahasuerus sent all his law to everywhere and all that, but they were really a great empire. The sages refer to them as the greatest empire of that time. Let's move on. I wanted to try to illustrate the size of this empire. So I took in Google Earth, I tried to compare to United States, and look, it's approximately the same size. So it's really huge, even in the understanding, in our understanding today. It's really huge. Okay, let's move on. Now, according to the time, so we said that it is approximately in the middle of the 5th century, okay? And we are here, this is the timeline. Here is the 6th century, and this is Christ, okay? Now, I want to just note a few very important dates to put us on the same page. So Paras kingdom is between about 200 years, between the middle of the 6th century to the middle of the 4th, okay, about 200 years. And we have, first of all, in 586 BCE, the destruction of the first temple by Nebuchadnezzar. He was actually the previous big empire, the Babylonian Empire, okay, followed by the Babylonian exile, right, Galut Bavel. Now, afterwards came Cyrus the Koresh in 538, sorry, and Koresh Declaration, which is really a big thing, a big issue, and not only of course, it's a big issue for the Jewish people, but and in our history, but also he was a very liberal and wise king. Actually, he treated very well his people, all the nations, not only the Jews. I mean, he accepted all the habits and the customs of everyone. He thought it would be better and less problems. So after his famous declaration, people came back to Jerusalem from the Babylonian exiles, led by Ezra and Nehemiah. And as we know, the diaspora sometimes can be very nice and comfortable. So not all the exiles had returned. Many of them remained in Babylon, and some of them are Mordechai and Esther. Okay, because this thing took place about here. Okay, the Koresh declaration. Now in 516 BCE, the second temple is built in Jerusalem in with the permission of Koresh, and lasted until 70 CE and was destroyed by Titus the Roman following the Great Revolt. We will not, of course, it's not our story. I just wanted to emphasize some few important dates. Actually, the Paras kingdom is failed in approximately 334, the invasion of the great Alexander of Macedon, Alexander the Great. Okay, and then we start the Hellenistic period. Okay, until about 30. Well, we can count it all in different ways, but this was the Hellenistic period, and then the Roman period. Okay, so we are talking about here in the middle of the 5th century BCE. Okay, so and just if you mentioned Koresh declaration, this was how it was written, actually, Koresh declaration. It is a clay cylinder, and now it is in the British Museum, and we can find it in the book of Ezra, chapter 1. If someone wants to read it, I think it's very nice to read only the bold words. Claire, can you read it? Only the bold.
So only okay. And he hath charged me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judea, whosoever there is among you of all his people, is God be with him. Let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judea, and build the house of the Lord, the God of Israel. He is the God who is in Jerusalem.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so it's really maybe our second aliyah. We came back to our land. People say 3 times. The first one in the living Egypt, and then now, and then here, and then of course in 48. Now only in 2015, I think, there was a stamp that was published with this picture of Koresh declaration. Well, maybe I didn't bring the picture of the stamp, but so the second. Just a minute, maybe someone wants to. No. So the second verse of chapter 1, okay, Gershom, can you read only the second verse?
Sure. That in those days, when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the castle.
Okay. So Shushan was the winter capital of the Achmani kings, this dynasty, the Shoshelet Achmanait. They lived there for half a year. So they had 4 capitals, actually, all this big empire, and it was Shushan here, Persepolis, which was a big city, Bavel, And somewhere here, I'm not sure it is the right, but anyway, this was the four. Those were the four capitals, and really they stayed according to their custom. They stayed 6 months here, and then in Shushan, and then they went back to here. This was the main. Koresh declaration, by the way, I think, if I'm not mistaken, was found here in some, in archaeological, I forgot the word, חפירות ארכיאולוגיות, research. Okay, anyway, so.
Archaeological digs.
תודה, okay, digs. I thought there is another word for digs, but okay.
Excavations.
Excavation, זהו, תודה. Okay, so now let's move on to our actually, stop share. Good, okay. Okay, so now we can start reading, and we can read again 1 and 2. It's not, it's only 2 verses. And Lynn, can you read until 1 until 8? Just unmute yourself.
Do we have the text?
Oh, I thought that you want me to put the text. No problem.
Oh, I don't have a text.
You don't have it, so I put it.
Just a minute. I found it. I did start reading it, but.
Oh yeah, I can put the text actually. Okay, so now let me share it.
Okay.
You see the text, right?
Yeah, up to 8?
Yeah.
Okay, now it came to pass in the days of Ashvarosh. This is Ashvarosh who reigned from India even unto Ethiopia, over 127 provinces. That in those days when the king Ashvarosh sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the castle, and in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all his princes and his servants, the army of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces being before him. When he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty, many days, even 180 days. And when these days were fulfilled, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present in Shushan, the castle, both great and small, 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace. There were hangings of white, fine cotton and blue, bordered with cords of fine linen and purple, upon silver rods and pillars of marble. The couches were of gold and silver, upon a pavement of green and white and shell and onyx marble. And they gave them drink in vessels of gold, the vessels being diverse one from another, and royal wine in abundance according to the bounty of the king. And the drinking was according to the law, none did compel. For so the king had appointed to all the officers of his house that they should do according to every man's pleasure.
Thank you. So in the beginning, we have an introduction to the king, and we can understand according to the oh, Shalom Esther. I didn't see you anyway. And we can understand according to these details that the text gives us. What can we see about him? about Hashverosh? What now that we read until verse 8? What do we know?
He likes lavish parties. Yeah, he was very rich.
First of all, extremely wealthy and rich, and loves parties and loves to drink, and also he loves to show off. He loved to show everyone how much he's rich. And in 8, there's no law to how you should drink. You can drink. However, it's not that you must drink or must not drink, or everything is very, very liberal, actually. And everything is, all this in 6, all this special material and very, very rich. And look at 4. This is really, he showed his riches, okay? 6 months, all they, according to the text, okay, all they did was big feast and a lot of wine and everything.
Eat, drink, and be merry.
Yeah, exactly. Drink and be merry. 6 months per year. I don't know what they did, maybe to be sober in the other 6 months.
Yes, but he's talking here about the officers of his house. What about the common people? Could they eat?
Okay, that's a good point. But the common people, look, it's also look at in 8, the common people, and also in 5. He didn't want to do the feast only for the high people, but yeah, everyone could celebrate. It says here in 5. In 5, it says of the garden of the king's palace. So it says, according to what I found, it's a huge garden, like a huge park around the palace that everyone can come. Really everyone. The king himself was always behind a curtain or because because of his safety. But everyone could come and feast. Now look at number 3. In the 3rd year of his reign. Why in the 3rd? Why not in the first first year? Because he had to kill everyone that was opposed to him, and then after his and we know that many of the big kings and leaders did this over times, and so afterwards, and also something that according to the research, this Ahashverosh was not from the royal dynasty. Okay, he was very wealthy also before that, and he paid people there in the king environment to marry Vashti. Vashti was the daughter of the previous king. So he became a king without being from the royal dynasty. He became so. So he really likes to show off. And also very interesting point to say that there is a researcher, I think in Tel Aviv, don't remember her name, but she is really a specialist in Iran, and there are a few YouTubes with her lectures about Iran, and she says that it was a habit for the king to decide everything, all the royal decisions, when he was drunk, totally drunk, and then he was only had to confirm these decisions when he was sober. Okay, so in order to have the decisions come out of not rational, out of the belly, not so after heavy thinking and all that. So it's and this was as she said, according to what she said, says this was the regular custom. Amazing, isn't it? Okay. Anyone wants to comment about? Okay, so let's move on. Just a moment. So now, if we read 9 until 12. Paula, can you read it? Paula. Okay, not now. Estelle.
Okay.
I will.
Also,
okay.
Vashti. Oh, thank you. I was using my mouse and it doesn't work. Also, Vashti the queen made a feast for the women in the royal house, which belonged to.
We can't hear you very well. It's only me.
Am I closer now? Let's see. Is this better?
A little bit better. Can you?
It's a different computer than I'm used to.
Okay.
I'll be loud. Also, Vashti the queen made a feast for the women in the royal house, which belonged to King Ahasuerus. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Bezethah, Harbona, Bigtha, and Abaktha, Zethar, and Carcass. I'm sure they're pronounced better in Hebrew. The 7 chamberlains that ministered in the presence of Ahasuerus the king, to bring Vashti the queen before the king with the crown royal, to show the people and the princes her beauty, for she was fair to look on. But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's commandment by the chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him.
Thank you. So, as we already know that he really likes to show off his wealthy and his wealth, he wanted to show off also his woman, his wife. So now,
like Trump.
Well,
but she was really a feminist that she refused, and I think a lot of us very much admired her for that.
Vashti, you mean?
Yes.
Yes. We will talk about it in a minute.
I think we can leave American politics out of this, please.
Yeah. Let's leave all nowadays politics out of our discussions, maybe, if someone doesn't like it. So, what I wanted to say, according to the first paragraph that we read until verse 8, it sounds like a nice king. I mean, it's a little bit all this drinking and this. Sorry, what? Excessive, yeah, a little bit, but nice. I mean, he gave wine to everyone, and it was a royal wine. They didn't have to buy it, so it seemed to have to be a nice and very dominant also. I mean, he look at even the verbs in he is active in the first 8 verses that we read, and also in these verbs, these verses that comes afterward. He is very active. He's nice, and suddenly the fact that Vashti doesn't want to come to. I mean, it's not that she doesn't obey him, and this is like, I mean, it wasn't. לא היה כדבר הזה. It's not something that happened. I mean, people. She actually now is in life is in danger. Okay?
Not acceptable.
Sorry.
It is not acceptable
It's not acceptable, but much more like it's not acceptable.
She defied him. She defied him.
You can just kill her. I mean, like this. Now about.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I understood that Vashti is naked, But I don't see that specifically here.
Yes. Okay, so I was going to say something about it.
Okay.
According to some of the commentaries about this, look at 11. 11 say to bring Vashti, the queen, before the king with the crown royal. Okay, and the commentary says only the crown royal. This is the story about that we all know about the nakedness that she had to come. Okay, and now we also don't know why she didn't come. Maybe she was a feminist and she didn't want to be in front of all these drunk men. Maybe she was. I saw some commentary that she had a skin disease and she was ashamed. Maybe she was. She just didn't come, and we don't. The Megillah, the story doesn't tell us a lot about the thoughts of all the thoughts of the figures, but we know that the king was crazy angry. Okay, and this anger will come back again and again, a few times, not only with the king. We will see also with Haman, and so one feeling that we do know here, we don't have here love or compassion. We know we have anger, that will come a few times. Okay, let's see if I have. And we also know that Vashti is a beautiful woman, right? She is a beautiful woman. Let's see. We don't, okay. So until now, the king was dominant and central and did whatever he wanted, right? Let's continue reading. 13 until the end of the chapter. Maybe Andrea, can you read it?
Sure. 13 until. Okay.
Yeah, I can put it like this. Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to say first that in the book that I have, the translation, in the introduction, he says that it was the custom that once the men started to have wine, started to drink, then the women didn't come in anymore. The women stayed away. And that could explain why she didn't want to come. Okay, we're at 13. Then the king said to the wise men who knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew the law and judgment, the new law and judgment. And the next unto him was Karshena, Shetar, Admata, Tarshish, Mereth, Marsena, and Memucan, the 7 princes of Persia and Media, who saw the king's face and sat the first in the kingdom. What shall we do unto the queen Vashti according to law, for as much as she hath not done the bidding of the king Achashverosh by the chamberlains? And Memucan answered before the king and the princes, Vashti the queen hath not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes and to all the peoples that are in all the provinces of the king Achashverosh. For this deed of the queen will come abroad unto all women to make their husbands contemptible in their eyes, when it will be said, the king Achashverosh commanded Vashti the queen to be brought in before him, but she came not. And this day will the princesses of Persia and Media, who have heard of the deed of the queen, say the like unto all the king's princes. So will there arise enough contempt and wrath. If it please the king, let there go forth a royal commandment from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and the Medes, that it not be altered, that Vashti come no more before King Achashverosh, and that the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she. And when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his kingdom, great though it be, all the wives will give to their husbands honor, both to great and small. And the word pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Memucan. For he sent letters into all the king's provinces, into every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, that every man should bear rule in his own house, and speak according to the language of his people.
Thank you. So, what do you think about this exaggerated reaction of the king? I mean, all she did is didn't want to come. And look how all of a sudden Ahasuerus, the dominant and the big king of the huge empire and all that, can't decide anything, even something between him and his wife. So he called his wise men. And by the way, it's in 13. It's interesting. In English, it's the wise men, and in Hebrew, who knew the times. So who knew the times? In Hebrew, it's Chachamim Yodei Ha'itim. It's like something like philosophers or special yoatzim, consultants.
Counselors.
So all he needs to he can't think about it. He can't by himself. He can't decide anything. He must bring all these people. I mean, about what?
So from the political point of view, I mean, okay, this is not about our politics. It's just an example. If Netanyahu says he wants no longer has her position in the hierarchy there, although she's the one who actually had the inheritance of royalty.
Yes.
And somehow he's taking that away from her, which I don't quite understand the logistics of that.
Because it's a patriarchal society, and she belongs to him.
Exactly. It's not like in the kingdom in England or something like that. I mean, he is the powerful man. The only powerful figure in this place. He can kill everyone he wants. He can kill. He has all the power.
But he has the power by virtue of the fact that he married her.
Yes.
So now it becomes independently his power.
I assume because he's becoming to be a king was not so legal, according to the research. And remember, we read that it was only on the third year that they celebrated. Because before that, I assume that maybe Vashti's brothers, or we don't know. Nobody tell us all this, but the Vashti family, or her family, maybe was killed by him, or I don't know.
But in most societies, what happened, not so long ago, that when a woman married, it didn't matter how much wealth she had, everything went to her husband. He owned her. And the fact that he owned her and commanded her to come and she didn't, it showed he was humiliated before everybody. And this is, obviously the thing that angered him most.
Yes, it's like what Gershom said, that it shows the weakness. Well, I know what you said in first, that in the books of like English books in the 19th century, that all the money of the woman, the wife, goes immediately and automatically to the husband. Yes, the Jane Austen books.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And look, this what even amplified here is in 16. Memuchan says, one of this consultant, it's not only for the king, it's suddenly all the women, it will be a rebellion of all the women through all this 127 states that will revolt to their husbands. And I mean, it's amazing, totally out of proportion. And look, and Vashti in 19 loses her majesty. I don't know what to say, but all of a sudden she's fired. She's not, and we don't know also what was done with her. We don't know if she was killed, if she was exiled, if she was
divorced,
vanished,
expelled,
or exiled.
Exiled or expelled. Yeah, we don't know anything. I think this is the last time that we hear about Vashti in this chapter, maybe. So in number, just see that notice that the what I said before, that the logistic of this empire in 22, he had to send books and all kind of letters to all of the countries. I mean, it can take years. They wrote. They didn't have airplanes and all that, and also look, they had to translate every language. It means that they had many people that knew all the languages in Shushan. I mean, it's amazing, all this organization, all this administration of this empire. It's very, very impressive in this.
And I think on a kind of a purely character analysis, the king's weakness opens the door for manipulation by whoever, right? I mean, look how this gets applied. You have a very specific instance, it ends up being a royal edict about everybody. So his advisors can step right into this gap of his weakness and take him wherever they want him to go. It ends up being the law of the land.
Exactly. Yeah.
Aura. That's why I drink for a different reason on Purim, because you have Mordecai the guy in the king's court gets offended when Mordecai doesn't bow to him, right? And then he says, kill all the Jews. And the king says, whatever, okay.
Exactly.
And then at the end, Esther bats her pretty eyes and says, don't kill all the Jews. And the king goes, all right, whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
So we all celebrate that. But to me, it's a story about how fragile existence in the diaspora is for Jews, because it's all on a whim. At least in those days, if not these days. But I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So Ahasuerus is quite a weak king and can't think by himself and can't decide, and a weak also in front of his wise men. I wanted to say, okay. So now they will, as we all know, they will look for another woman, right? Right. Okay. So why couldn't this story begin with, okay, Ahasuerus wanted another Pilegesh, I don't remember how to say, another woman. He didn't want any more Vashti, and That's all. Why do we need chapter A to this story? We can say he was very wealthy. He reigned upon a large empire, okay, and all that. And he was very wealthy and liked to have feast. And he was looking for another woman, another beautiful woman.
But if we do that, then we don't get a sense of the background and the atmosphere before Esther comes on the scene. We need to know how significant her contribution was and her actions were, and you can only do that in comparison to what went before.
Although we don't know a lot about Vashti, all we know.
But we know something about her character. We know,
yes.
What her status was, and the fact that if she didn't obey her king, the consequences were dire. So
then we know what a sacrifice. Yeah, we know how Esther had to really think about speaking up for the Jewish people based on the fact that her predecessor, was ousted the way she was.
But I think also maybe it fits in with what was already said about Vashti may being the one of royal blood. So if she's going to be removed, this gives the justification for it. So if he's not really the one that was supposed to have the kingship, he married into it. She has more claim on one level than he does. How can she be removed? Well, here's the reason why.
Yeah, maybe. And of course, I think it's a very well-written story. As in the literature question, I mean, it's and we need this introduction, this colorful introduction, and with all the details and all this description of the palace and the feast. It makes us, and as links, and as you all said, it gives us the background, and this background is important. Also the background, as we talked about, the relationship between the king and his men and his consultants, and also the background, sorry? What?
It makes Esther all the more courageous if she knew she was going into what really is a high-risk situation. The place was, it was like an orgy. And probably the last thing she would want to do is to live in those circumstances. But she knew she had a job to do.
You're talking about Esther?
Esther, yes.
Yes.
Because after hearing the story of Vashti, who
you know what? I will say something about that is connected to what you said in a few minutes. And we also know about some of the habits of this nation. That the habit to have feast only men alone, and then women, and all that. Okay, let's continue reading. Okay, so before that, sorry, in 22, I want to show you something. I forgot. In 22, look at the end of the verse. Every man should bear rule in his own house and speak according to the language of his people. So all this mix of nations, they had probably marriage between them, in between, and then there were like a house of two languages, at least two languages. And now it will be that even with the new rule, that not only the husband should rule in his home, but his language will be the language of the house. Okay, so this is very, but I think what it shows us, the out of proportion, or everything went here totally out of proportions. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, so we will read now 1 to 4. Sharon, can you read? 1 עד 4. Do you see?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, 1 to 4?
Yes.
After these things, when the wrath of King Ahasuerus was assuaged, he remembered Vashti and what she had done and what was decreed against her. Then said the king's servants that ministered unto him, let there be sought for the king young virgins fair to look on. And let the king appoint officers in all the provinces of his kingdom, that they may gather together all the fair young virgins unto Shushan the castle, to the house of the women, unto the custody of Hegai, the king's chamberlain, keeper of the women, and let their ointments be given them. And let the maiden that pleaseth the king be queen instead of Vashti. And the thing pleased the king, and he did so.
Thank you. So something not interesting, not nice, but interesting in verse 1. Okay, so Ahasuerus is now sober, and he's it's not. He's not angry anymore. It's not. It's not said that he's sober, but all of a sudden he remembers Vashti and what she did, and look what is written afterwards, and what was decreed against her. What do you mean? What was decreed? I mean, you said it. You you did it all. But all of a sudden, it's the voice, the passive voice. Something had decreed against her. Okay, so I think, what do you think about this verse? I mean, maybe he missed her. Maybe he regretted.
Maybe he was so drunk that he didn't know what was going on.
But he should confirm his, this is the custom, he should confirm his decisions.
Well, it shows the responsibility that he actually, allowed his counselors and ministers to make the decision. And he's not taking responsibility for it because what was decreed against her.
Exactly. I think he's not taking any responsibility. He even don't say, oh, did I say this? Oh, no. Or something like this. No, not at all. It was something. And again, we see his weakness by this. I mean, you are the king. You can say something about it.
Isn't that still the way it is today, though? When a woman is raped, they don't say someone raped her. They say she was raped.
I think if we know the raper, with the raper,
rapist.
I think we yeah.
But I think that he's so vain that the reason he let those consultants or his advisors decide what should be done is because he doesn't want to lose face. So he's asking when it happens and she doesn't come before him, he's asking, what should we do about this? Because he wants to satisfy his people that he was that he made a good decision. So he lets them help decide what's going to happen. What should we do? And if they, so now he's drunk at the time. Now he's sober, as Andrea was saying. And now he's finding out.
I think behind these words, there is some kind of regret. I mean, I think he missed her. All of a sudden, oh, what have I done? Yeah, Sharon, you think so too? Okay, so now is the searching for a new girl. Of course, she should be beautiful and virgin and all this. By the way, we look at number 3, Hege, the name of that. This is all these names are marvelous, but Hege Sris Hamelech. how do you say it in English? Hege. We met a Saris, which is we met. Remember where?
Eunuch. Wait a second.
It's a eunuch. Yes.
Ma? Sorry.
Eunuch.
Eunuch.
Eunuch. EUNUCH.
UNUCH.
EUNICH.
You mean the word Saris? The word Saris, and then okay. Unit. Okay.
Servant. Saris is a servant, no?
Well, Saris is not
servant.
It's a special servant, not
special
servant.
And
do you remember
the women? And they used eunuchs, so the women would not be in danger.
Exactly.
Of having sex with their guard.
Exactly.
They couldn't.
Yeah. So this is the Saris is someone that was סרסו אותו, זה לא רק משרת, זה לא רק משרת המלך, מישהו שמסורס. Now remember with Joseph and the wife of Potiphar, Potiphar was סריס המלך.
סריסי פרעה.
מה?
סריסי פרעה.
סריסי פרעה and also Potiphar.
סריסי פרעה in the jail.
Yes, but and now sometimes the Sarisim had children before they were when they went through this procedure, and sometimes they didn't have, they couldn't.
Castrated. Castrated. They were castrated.
Yeah. Okay. Well, normally I don't use this word every day. Okay. So, anything else about this paragraph? Okay, let's move on. Wendy, you didn't read. So please read 5 until 8.
Okay. There was a certain Jew in Shushan, the castle, whose name was Mordechai, the son of Yair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem with the captives that had been carried away with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away. And he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, and the maiden was of beautiful form and fair to look on. And when her father and mother were dead, Mordechai took her for his own daughter. So it came to pass, when the king's commandment and his decree was published, and when many maidens were gathered together unto Shushan the castle, to the custody of Haggai, that Esther was taken into the king's house, to the custody of Haggai, keeper of the women. And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her her ointments with her portions, and the 7 maidens, who were meet to be given her out of the king's house. And he advanced her and her maidens to the best place in the house of the women.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Laura?
Yes.
I have 2 questions. One, why do they keep referring to Shushan the castle as opposed to Shushan the capital? Because in Hebrew it says Shushan HaBira, and we normally translate Bira as capital.
Yeah. Well, the castle was in Shushan was the castle of the king. I also, you're right about this question, but this is what I found about it. That it means that the castle was in this town. And the king's castle. Castle is Armon. It's only Armon.
Yes.
So this is what it means. That it was the royal family lived there.
My second, wait a second, my second question, I have one more question, excuse me. It says that Esther was Mordechai's uncle's daughter, which makes him her first cousin. So they would be of more or less equal age.
Not necessarily.
Well, you know,
not necessarily, but it wouldn't be more than 20 years difference.
Well, I have more than 20 years between my oldest and my youngest kid. And my niece is 2.5 years older than my oldest son.
Yeah, it can be.
Which means that there's like 25 years almost between her and Yedidia.
Yeah.
So,
but yet we think of Mordechai as being we think of Mordechai as being an older man. He's always portrayed as an elder.
Yes, and he might have been an older man. According to the text, they are cousins, first cousins, and he might have been. Yeah, his father and her father were brothers, but it can be like what Andrea said, that maybe, I don't know, 20 years or less or more.
My niece has daughters who are like 8 months older than Elisheva and a year younger than Elisheva. She's 50, Yedidia's 25. So she's old enough, certainly, to be Yedidia's mother. So
it can be.
Big families. What happens? My oldest son is 48, and Yedidia's 25. So
Yeah, it can be. Let's assume that she was how old was she? Like maybe 15, 16, 17, something like that, right? So it can be 30, 35. Yeah, with no problem, even less. Okay, 28.
Yeah, but we always see him pictured, and I realize that this is inaccurate because you also see pictures of Jesus. And obviously, nobody knows what he looked like.
Exactly.
But Mordechai is always portrayed as an older man.
Yes.
And
But
I'm
an older man,
not talking about older meaning 35.
An older man doesn't mean he is 60 or 70 or 80 or something like that. He is just older than her. For example, in Ruth, in the story of Ruth, Megillat Ruth, how old do we all think that is Boaz? How old is he? What do you think?
40.
40, what?
40, 50.
40, 50, right? Okay, so according to the research, he is about 80.
Wow.
So, yes.
Wow.
So it's not so, we get and also we all think, yes, we all believe that Ruth was a beautiful woman, but it is never said in all the story that she was beautiful. It's like we get some kind of impressions about things, and so I think this is all what it's all about. He can be, I don't know, 15, 20, 25 years older than her. And that's it. She was, yeah.
Can I refer back to Sharon's first question? I think it was quite common that when they say Shoshan, the castle, and Habirah, quite often the castle, the city walls, well, you have seen towns and cities that the city walls enclosed actually a huge area which consisted also of a town and shops and everything else. And I think it's quite logical to understand Shoshan, the castle, being the foundations of the whole area.
So you mean?
I think castle.
No, I didn't understand. So you mean the Shushan was all the
Shoshan,
area
the
of
castle was the castle walls, the actual foundations enclosed within it, the whole city, including shops, and you find this all over Europe.
So why it's called the castle? Why it's called the Armon?
It is not Armon, it is Metsuda, Ora. Castle means Metsuda.
No, okay, but why?
The kings in that time lived in the Metsudah, who is closed around with big
fortifications for defense, and everything was enclosed within.
I see.
Yeah.
Like Metsudat David, you know, Metsudat David, it's the same.
Yes, maybe. Yeah.
Perfectly logical.
In my
very interesting.
In my translation, he says Shushan the fortress. He uses the word fortress.
Which means what's a fortress?
Fortress
the military
area.
Installation.
It's like a walled. It has walls around it.
So it's really Metsudah, like Rivka.
A town. With
very, very interesting. Okay. So now something important here. In the first time until now, I think it's the first time that we have a Yehudi, a Jew. Normally, it's they name the Hebraic, the Israelites, okay, never a Jew. Ish Yehudi, which means he was in the region of Yehuda. Okay, and he was one of the. And in verse number 6, he was exiled from Jerusalem with all other people. And Yechaniah, the king of Judah, is Yehoiachin, who was the son of Yehoiakim. And Yechaniah reigned upon Judah for 3 months when he was 18 years old, and then was exiled by Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, that exiled everyone, all the elite, all the people of the royal environment, and all and also some of the prophets like Yechezkel also went to Babylon. Okay, something interesting we have to finish, but just another very interesting point here in 7. Mordechai was brought up. Okay, he took care of Hadassah. Okay, so this girl, her name is Hadassah, but from now on we will know her, as we all know, as Esther. So keep this in mind, these 2 names, and we will see that she doesn't tell about her background. Okay, we will read it in verse number verse number 10. Esther had not made known her people nor her kindred, right? So everything, there's some secret here. It's not her name. It's not she doesn't tell where she comes from and all that. Okay, so we will finish now, and thank you for all. And we will continue in 2 weeks, because next week we have women's circle, and it should be very nice. I really suggest invite all women to come. It would be very nice. I will stop share now. Okay, so Laila Tov.
Thank you, Ora. Shabbat Shalom. Bye-bye.
Shalom.
Pleasure.